Sounds of Heart here on 1FM 91.3, taking us to 9:10 here on Morning Drive with the Flying Dutchman, Kerry Chong. In the studio today with us, we're joined by Nathan Harris and also Eroni Clarke. They are All Blacks legends. So welcome to Singapore.
Oh, kia ora. Nice to be here today.
Yeah, Morena, thanks very much for having us.
So I'm not big on rugby, I have to say, first and foremost, but I know of the All Blacks.
Everybody
knows of the All Blacks. They're legendary. And we want to, find out what you've been up to, how you're enjoying Singapore. What's the agenda for this trip? What are you doing here?
Yeah, what are you guys actually doing here?
Yeah, so we arrived here on Saturday.
Yeah.
We've been running rugby holiday clinics for Singapore kids based out of St Andrews, pretty much from Monday to Friday. We do a variety of epic skills. I guess it's like a New Zealand flair or an All Black flair or black fin feel on how we would train as to try and make it to the All Blacks. So we're giving our experience that we had while we were playing and when we were growing up in New Zealand, and pretty much putting that in a package for 5 days.
Oh, that is amazing!
Wow.
I look at kids in Singapore playing rugby. With the exception of our boss's son, most of them are not very big.
Is that what it takes to be
is it
big
just
and
about
strong,
size?
the physique-wise?
No, not at all. There's always a saying. It's not about the size of the dog in the fight. It's about the fight in the dog.
Yeah.
And no doubt rugby is certainly the same thing. What we are seeing though throughout the week, and what we're seeing in terms of, we've got some athletic big kids here. I think we naturally think, because in terms of Malaysia, Singapore, we think we're all small. And Japan, that's always the assumption. But certainly what we're seeing some good size athletic, because it's good to have size, but if you're not athletic and explosive and powerful too. So we're seeing a really good balance with the kids, from especially the older ones, the 15, 16, 17 and 18 year olds. So, and that's been really good too. Equal to that is the athleticism. So for us, for Nathan and I, and other coaches that are there, it's that ability just to be able to transfer those the skills, what you need in terms of going to the next level of rugby. Yeah. So, and that's the wonderful thing. And I take my hat off to all of our coaches and our parents that are here, and we hear so often from them is that, we might say it again and again, these skills that are really important, but as soon as an All Black sees it, it's like, wow, Mum, Dad, guess what we learned today?
Yeah, it's gospel.
It is gospel.
Yeah. Actually, we're going to go on Facebook right now and chat a little bit more. Okay, so join us there, please.
Good time.
So it's not just about the size. You have to be strong, you have to be fast, you need stamina, right? A lot of these considerations. Tell us about this experience of putting on your jersey for the very first time, the All Blacks jersey.
That jersey is holy grail to rugby.
Yeah.
It is.
Tell us about your time with the All Blacks.
That first time you pulled it on.
Yeah, I guess when you normally enter that environment, and from being a kid, there's that expectation that you would have woken up and, got up at 3 o'clock in the morning to watch the All Blacks v England, or, it's a huge thing. And both of our lives were like that. So I guess for me, and the first time that I pulled on the black jersey, we always talked about that the jersey is never yours. You never own it. But you want to, and you respect the people that have had that jersey before in that position, or that have played in the black jersey. And so you want to add a legacy to that jersey. So you're borrowing it, you're trying to give it everything that you can give to ensure that whoever picks it up next is going, okay, this is what this person's done in the jersey.
Right.
They're going to add their own spin or lens to it. So for me, it was a huge thing. And I remember taking photos of my first All Black jersey and sent it to my parents, because they were the ones that, they got up early mornings and took me to my games and, had done so much for me. So very, very proud moment for myself and also my community as well, which is a big thing, that there was a role model in our community.
Yeah,
that's right. And similar to me, I was born in Samoa, and then my father brought us to New Zealand. Why? Because he wanted to have better opportunities for his children. And so growing up in New Zealand, in Aotearoa, around rugby, I remember being 7 years old, and our father sitting us down to say, we're watching the All Blacks today. And from that moment, I was captivated, seeing these men running around, chasing this egg-shaped ball. I didn't know what rugby was. was. But certainly when I asked my father and I said to him, Dad, how do you become an All Black? And he said, son, you have to be brainy. And I thought, wow, okay then. But the reality for the moment for me was, in that time, was that's where the dream started.
Yeah.
So the dream starts somewhere, and I think from there was just being able to foster that dream, the community, our families, the coaches that really helped continue to build that dream.
But that's an interesting thing, because in New Zealand, you guys start rugby at a crazy young age. Right?
How old were you when you played yours? I was 4.
Yeah. You see what I mean?
What?
4 years old.
That's right.
This is true.
Getting
They started.
pummeled.
No, it was just touch.
Yeah.
So two-hand touch back then.
Yeah.
So I actually played 1 year of rugby, and then I went and played football for a year, and then I went back to rugby. So it's two-hand touch until the age of 8 when we start tackling.
Yes,
Yeah.
It
that's
might have
right.
been different for you.
Yeah, well, certainly being with Samoan, we have a saying that when the Samoans in the Pacific stopped warring, they picked up a rugby ball and then they played rugby instead. So, yeah, as a youngster, from that time as a 7-year-old watching the game, that's when I got involved in rugby. My father played for Samoa as well when he was in his days. So it really does. It's that just continue to pass on from one generation to the next generation, and the legacy of New Zealand, of All Black rugby, continues as well. So you get really wrapped up, and of course as World Cups and other things come on to really encourage that, it's great. It just continues to really keep that legacy in the hearts and minds.
What sort of evolution have you seen through rugby? I mean, you've been playing it for so long.
No. Well, certainly, here's the good one. I played in the days where rugby went from amateur to professional. So I was one of that first generation that saw that change.
Right.
And so you're working a 9-to-5 job in New Zealand. We work 9 to 5 only in New Zealand, and so from there, all of a sudden, rugby went professional. And now you were no longer doing this 9-to-5 job. Rugby was your life. Rugby was your job.
Yeah.
So for me, that was seeing that change and understanding. So that's part of that evolving of rugby, evolving of the game, particularly from that level. So it really did. And it took a bit of a shift being that first generation. So what's really interesting though was that when we started to retire, was a lot of us didn't know, well, how do we use this money? How do we use that life? We didn't really build to, when we finished and retired, preparing ourselves for that. So there was a lot of, all of a sudden, what do I do now?
Because
Nathan,
you
it might have been
started
a bit
so
different.
young, and then that's all you knew, right? With rugby.
Is that the same for you, Nathan?
Yeah.
I guess my pathway was a little bit different. So there was like foundations. So you sort of knew around the different school that you went to if your chance of becoming a rugby player was a little bit different. But I actually went to the school that I went to because of my education. I genuinely didn't think that I was going to play for the All Blacks. Like my goal was to play for 100 games for my local club, and maybe play a handful of games to represent my region. So it was a pretty rapid rise. So when I left school in 2010, played for my club, made New Zealand under 20s 2 years later, and then 2014 I made my debut for the All Blacks. And I also changed positions in that. So I was never talented. I was just the guy that would just constantly outwork other people. So when we signed my first contract, I was like, $1,000, that's amazing, and that was a good amount of money for me compared to when I was signing my last contracts, where I was like, wow, and I was going, I need to save this and invest this, and there was always people where if they'd been in that game for a long time, they'd go and buy a jet ski or a new car, I was like, I'm just happy with my little car that gets me from A to B. That was not really, it was more, how am I going to use that to set me up? But also financially, but also from an education point of view, because there were scholarships that you could get for playing elite sport. So I pretty much got a free ride through university because of me playing in those teams. And I used that to my advantage, so that I walked away with, income, assets, and then also an education as well.
What's the lifespan of a rugby player now? I mean, we see it in football. You get the likes of Cristiano Ronaldo
Who's
in
still
their
at
40s.
it,
It look like they're in their 20s, but it's a rarity. Right?
Yeah.
Gone are the days of football players playing till they were 47, 48. What about rugby these days? What's your lifespan?
Yeah.
Because it's a hell of a contact sport.
It's a contact
It is.
sport, exactly, too. So I believe that probably the average length of professional rugby career, we're looking probably about 7 years, 8 years, if you're doing really, really well.
Wow.
But we're seeing some of the players that are actually getting older, so it's stretching out a little bit more. And so as now we're seeing some of our All Blacks are in their early 30s and still playing. Ma'anonu. Amazing, still world class, and he's doing really well.
Yeah.
So we are starting to see why, because everything's based around recovery. There's a lot more focus on the way that you prepare. So it's becoming a lot more scientific in terms of being able to continue on that game too.
Okay, we're going to talk about, injuries and keeping to form and all that, staying resilient through all that in just a bit when we go on air. To Shaggy here on 1FM 91.3. Good times, greatest hits here on the morning drive. Thanks for joining us, Nathan Harris and Eroni Clarke, All Blacks legends here in the studio today. We've been talking about rugby, your journey so far, what you're doing here, running some clinics for schools, right, for the kids, the rugby kids here. Now, how do you stay resilient? That contact sport like rugby, you get injured a lot, and you go through things in your personal life. For the kids who are listening in, parents as well. How do you keep going despite the tough times?
I think it's just understanding your why and why you want to achieve those things. Obviously, I remember one of my first teams that I missed out was a rep team, and I was emotionally wrecked. I really wanted to be in that team, and I was crying, and my dad said, well, this is going to set you in good stead. And, it's about taking learnings and then what you do from those learnings. So you can go, oh, maybe I should have gone for an extra run, or I should have done a little bit more catch pass. But it's also the humility of who you are as a person. There's always going to be people that are going to miss out on teams or selections or job opportunities similar to business. But it's around what you do to ensure that next time you go for that job or next time you try to go for that team, you're actually front and center. So for me, I faced a lot of resilience in my career. Second test match for the All Blacks, ended up injuring my ankle, spent 9 months out.
Wow.
Got back into the All Blacks, was there for 3 games, got injured again, spent another 9 to 10 months out, made a series, got good, played a couple of years, and then recently why I had to retire was because of my ankle. So had another injury, then had 6 operations, so I ended up spending 21 months out of the game, getting back for another 4 games. And then
wow.
And I was like, at that stage we were going through COVID and lockdown. There was a lot of uncertainty, but I was still getting up every single morning at about 5:30, do my stretching, do my ice bath, making sure that I was setting myself up so even if rugby was to go ahead or not, I was becoming a better person or a better man to ensure that I was ready to go.
So Eroni, he injures an ankle. He's out for 9 months. He keeps injuring his ankle. He's then out for 21 months. In your day, the treatment and the recovery was totally different. How did you guys handle it?
Totally different. And I think that's where, again, that's one of the really key things that are important is the people that are around you. In our Pacific, we say, there's a saying, and it's very similar to Māori, is that it takes a village to raise a child.
Yes.
And so similarly then understanding is the people that are around you that support you, particularly through those hard times, that helps you to support you, then it also helps to build the resilience in you as well.
Yeah.
Who are the ones that constantly remind you the why you're there. And then you become understand, like Nathan said, once you understand your why you're there. So many of those players, when you ask them, why are you doing this? Many of them will talk about, well, it's been my dream, but also too many of them will say, it's because of my family. And I think that's the wonderful thing always that builds resilience is always coming back to why, because that'll drive you forward even when you've got the worst of injuries, even if you've got the repeated injuries. It's that constant why that brings you back. And so also too the drive that the question you ask yourself, how good am I? How good can I really be? And so those the key things are really important. But I found particularly it's the village around me that really supports me through that time. And so it has been for me that pre-professional days, it's been my family, my whānau we call it as well in Aotearoa. So that's been important, and then it just comes down to the drive of how much you want it as a player to come back. And as Nate's already given you examples that, and similar in my day as well, it's that drive that it you can't coach that. That's something that's built up, and it drives from within you.
Yeah.
Do you think that differentiates, a good player and a great player? Yeah. That drive, the why.
It's
the
certainly
discipline.
part of it. It's a huge part of it.
Not just the physique, not just the training.
That's right. I mean, Nate and I have seen big kids, smaller kids, athletes in that way. I mean, that have it's just been the drive. The difference has been the drive, Nate.
Yeah, I think we just, like, a lot of kids see the thing of, I can throw a 20-metre pass. And so they go, they're amazing. But what and for my situation, I wasn't the most talented kid. What I loved seeing at a lot of these clinics that we've been doing, and I don't know if it's just the All Blacks brands that's been promoting it, but at lunchtime, the kids that probably weren't so good have been out there doing some passing.
Yeah.
And it's that discipline, it's that tenacity, it's that grit that we are trying to install at these All Black clinics to understand it's just not the talented kids that get to play for their country.
Yeah.
It's the kids that are actually doing those extras. And we've seen a lot of that in Singapore.
Having said it's the kids doing the extras, what do you say to the young kids in Singapore who want to take up rugby?
That's the wonderful thing for us. I mean, when we're in the skills matrix, and we realise, with the coaches and with the parents as well, they're telling the kids, we're telling them the same messages, but hearing it from a couple of All Blacks makes a huge difference in terms of.
So you have to come back a whole lot more.
That's the wonderful thing about these collaborations that we've got around the world. These All Black coaching clinics. Sydney, the GM for Singapore Rugby, has been really accommodating for us as well. So
except he hasn't taken you to Maxwell Market.
Yes, you got to take them to Maxwell Market, okay?
Try out all the local cuisine that we have.
Quick question. Yeah. Are you guys good with spicy food?
Love a little bit of spice, yeah.
Okay, love spice.
Dude.
Let's not do something here, though.
No, dude. Barbecued stingray.
Okay, yeah.
They got to do barbecued
chili
stingray.
crab, that sort of thing. So enjoy the rest of your time in Singapore, and it's really been a pleasure having you here on 1FM. Once again, Nathan Harris and Eroni Clarke, All Blacks legends. Thank you, guys.
Thanks, Kerry. Thanks, FD.
Keeping it idiot-proof. The Flying Dutchman in Carrie Chong on the Morning Drive. 1FM 91.